Hey everyone, thanks for having me. Thanks to the team at EnviroCast for having me today. Excited to share sort of my story, my background, and hopefully that's helpful for for everyone who's listening on the call. Um, so I'm Kaushik Ravi here, and today I'm going to focus on sort of my journey from Wall Street to tech CEO, and kind of coming from my background, which is at Goldman Sachs and some of the sort of top financial services firms in the world, to now building the largest sort of financial services network here. And so excited to share my journey. So Kaushik here, like I said, quick background. Again, I'm going to I have just 6 or 7 slides. I'll walk through. And obviously, I think we're going to stop for questions later on. So happy to take any questions. So first, Kaushik here. Like I said, my background, has been I spent my first 8 to 10 years of my career in Wall Street. So kind of think core financial services industry, and the majority of which was at Goldman Sachs, which is one of the largest financial services firm in the world. So I started in their investment banking group and then transitioned over to their private equity group. So investment banking is where we advise clients on mergers and acquisitions and IPOs and so on. And then private equity is us investing in companies, so raising capital and investing in companies, similar to you must have heard of venture capital or other things. And so that's kind of the private equity space. So kind of the formative years of my career have been in sort of the finance industry. And, I've been very fortunate in that I've got to work on, some of the largest deals. In fact, having led 3 of the largest financials deals, at Goldman, across M&A, across IPO, and so on. So very fortunate in that sense. It's also very fortunate to have sort of been able to, kind of navigate kind of the career path in an accelerated manner, having reached sort of, associate VP, principal director, all in sort of a short period of time. And then obviously, as you can imagine, that always gets you thinking, okay, what's next? What else can I do, and how else can I have a even much greater impact, right? I've again been fortunate. I've helped build 3 large financial services businesses, or private equity platforms to date, across Goldman, across another fund, as well as with Onefinnet or One Financial Network now. Also, took on leadership roles at Goldman and beyond, chief of staff with our massive bank, led recruiting and all of that stuff. And as I realized kind of my, way to have an impact while also building a business and a platform, which then has kind of allowed me to do the last 2 things on this page, which is, having mentored and trained and coached over 100,000 professionals and students since we started this platform like 4 years ago. Also have led, over 500 sold out sessions across top universities and schools, etc. Again, I'll come back to that point, as well as sort of build what is one of the largest sort of Rolodexes on Wall Street. And I've been able to kind of, ability to do the things that you want to do while also having a lot of impact, right? So I guess the first topic is, as you think about your career journey, I always recommend or encourage people, and this is kind of what I tried to do and I'm trying to do, is combine the passions that I have. And first of all, is identifying what those passions are. And so this took me a little bit of time, right? And I'm sure everyone on this call, regardless of your age, to try to figure out what are the things you're super passionate about and where do you want to really devote a lot of your time to. And for me, it was sort of 4 things, right? Business, capital, finance. That's where I've started my career, and that's where I'll always sort of have a passion for. So a lot of you guys, maybe that's coding, maybe it's consumer stuff, maybe it's, shopping, and, whatever the sectors and industries are that you're really genuinely interested in. And then the second thing, which I was a little bit lacking in sort of the, Wall Street job, was frankly that the ability for technology and now AI to really make everything 100 times easier. And so I wanted to combine, my passion for that with that. And then the third thing I felt was people, right? I think when you're, doing a lot of coding, or when you're doing, a lot of just kind of computer modeling and things like that, or, in Excel, I think you'll lose a little bit of touch with people. And I think that I felt was a huge passion of mine and a huge area of interest. And then finally, how to have an impact and also build a legacy, right? So maybe I throw in the word legacy in here as well. And so for me, these were my 4 passions and interests. And again, I encourage you all to, kind of find what they are. And then it's about how do you put these together and build something that is, allows you to be wildly, more successful and so on, right? And so then it got me to, okay, now you take your passions and then combine it with the market needs in finance. And for me, I felt like there was a lot of needs within the world of finance and business and capital. And some of these needs were on the people side and some of these needs were on the firm side, right? So on the people side, I think it's things like access to career-long, high-quality networks, access to reputable learning, access to top-tier jobs throughout your career, learning and development, capital, all of that. And then on the firm side, I think there was a lot of access to high-quality sort of business development, talent, technology, and all of that. So how do we build something that combines both of them? And thus we built sort of what is Onefinnet or One Financial Network, which is the largest sort of all-encompassing finance, for consumers, which is professionals and students, training, coaching, networking, talent, hiring, AI, finance in the world. And then for firms, it's for, capital, training, development, hiring, AI, and all of that. And so as part of Onefinnet, I think we have 4 verticals on the people side or B2C side, which we have the largest sort of career coaching and placement. Because what we realize is that traditional college setting or the traditional MBA setting is not allowing people access and frankly accessibility to what we call elite careers in the world. So we decided to build out our own sort of version of accelerated learning via coaching. And so today we have, clients from 95% of the top 30 universities, top 15 MBAs, top 50 high schools, all of that. And frankly, it's thriving. And the second platform is a training vertical. Again, similarly, right? I think we felt college as well as career-long learning was not as accessible to people. Frankly, it wasn't training people in a very rapidly changing dynamic of a career. So we've kind of built our training platform around professionals and professionals actually coming on and training everyone. And like I said, since 2021, over 500 sold out trainings in person, as well as over 40 to 50,000 people trained online. Again, this is in the finance careers, right? So it's a little bit more of a niche. And then the third is kind of hiring and talent, which we felt like, look, if we can train and, bring in the best of the best, then we can partner with the top firms in the world on their hiring. And so we're very fortunate to have helped over 700 billion of funds on the sort of talent side. And then finally, like I said, the business development and networking vertical, we have an online AI networking platform. We have an in-person sort of networking thing, all of that. Like I said, our representation, 29 of the top 30 undergrad universities, as well as the top 15 business schools, and so on and so forth. On the B2B side, I guess the parts that the parts that I think are the most interesting. Similarly, on as far as these, right? You're training and you're coaching the best of the best. So we help with placement, right? In terms of all of these top firms. We also help, and we've built out a brand new like AI and finance vertical where a lot of our firms want expertise into the top sort of AI and sort of what are the latest both talent as well as how do we train those models, how do we actually instill those into our workforce. So we built out a full AI work stream for our B2C firms and so on. And then the final sort of point I guess I will share here before I kind of open it up for questions for you guys is the lessons learned. And a lot of the lessons learned that I learned frankly from Wall Street and kind of sitting in board meetings and boardrooms and so on, and how you can apply it to the real world and building things. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening here who want to build their own platforms and businesses and so on. And I think maybe I'll share kind of 4 or 5 of my biggest lessons learned for you guys to do that. The first one, which I think is increasingly becoming more important, and which is kind of why we've built a networking platform as part of our larger, verticals, as part of our larger platform, is I think increasingly, right, the ability to build code or the ability to sort of access information or even frankly capital is not a differentiator anymore, right? So kind of what is the differentiator? I truly, number one is like your networks, right? And sort of your ability to access those networks become your number one source of capital, right? If you are a technologist building a company, to go reach out and raise venture money, you obviously want to build a network in the venture space. To go and hire the best talent, you need a network, right? You go and if you're on the finance side, to go and do a deal, to go and actually have someone, partner with you, again, you need a network, right? So again, point here is the importance of the network, I felt like has been super differentiating for my career, and certainly, hopefully, it will be for you guys as well. Number two is, I think we should all be really ambitious, right? Like, I think the world is, if we choose, the world can be really, really small, and we're like, oh, my world is just coders here, or my world is just finance people and so on. But I think we want you all to be very ambitious. Like, I think the reason is I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to build a large, kind of this large network and this large platform. Frankly, it's like, can you start small, but then, be ambitious, have large goals, but make sure you do the little things well, right? So just when you add a new client or when you add a new user, make sure you're still taking care of the old user, right? And make sure you're taking care of the old clients. Make sure, you're doing kind of all the little things well. And I think the biggest lesson learned here, right, is, right, again, back to the boardroom. Having sit in the boardroom, yes, it's really cool and it's, fun to go sit and present to a CEO and all of that. But each of those, right, requires you to have spent 3, 4, 5 days really digging into the company and the financials and all of that, right? So the preparation that requires to have a seat at that table is immensely important, because what I've realized is we will want to work with people over our careers who are best in class at what they do. And to be the best in class at what you do, you really have to sort of take care of the small details about whatever makes everything successful. Number three is like add value, right? I think one of the misconceptions is like, oh, I've built something cool and it's like, why aren't people using it, right? I think there's a lot that goes to a successful company and a successful sort of, platform. And the biggest of those is actually being able to add value and then be able to communicate what value you add versus what's in market, right? Because switching costs, guys, for someone using something and then switching to something new is very real. And so that for that reason, in my opinion, like, people aren't going to just switch if you just build a different version of the same platform. It's like, can you truly add value over and beyond what's actually in the world? And that's when you get people to start really, start getting excited about your products. There's always this newness factor, right? So everyone gets excited about something new, but if we kind of extend beyond that, then you have to hold on to people by the value that you add and sort of how yours is differentiated with other things, right? So again, switching costs are really, really real in the world. And then lastly, I think, like I was pointing out earlier, the people that I've found to be the most successful, and obviously we have a platform that, we deal with kind of the top 10% of the finance world. Frankly, they're about finding your passions and then building businesses around them, right? So I think it's fine to take some time to figure out what your passions are, or to get passionate about something after you sort of start building. But truly, right, if you look at the great founders, you look at the great operators, the great investors, all of those people live, breathe, and sort of their business and the passions and their products and so on. And that really only happens when you're really genuinely passionate about the thing. So I always, like I said, when I started the slides, like finding your passions, finding the things you're interested in, and then finding the market needs that are going on in that space, at the end of the day, I think is what is going to sort of make it more sort of successful. And the reason why I say that is building a business or building a platform, is great half the time. And then the other half of the time, it's pretty hard. And so what are the things that drive you and want you to work really hard, even on the days that it's really hard to build something, is when you're actually working on something you're deeply passionate about. And then defining for yourself, okay, I'm really passionate about something. What am I really good at? And then, where can I have impact? So I think I'm at the end of my sort of allocated time. So let me pause here, guys. And then maybe I'll open up for any questions that people have, and so on.
Okay, hello. Yes, that was incredibly inspirational. I really enjoyed that talk.
Yeah, thank you. I think that really opened the door for a lot of people watching, and it really opened them up to the career stream of finance. We really appreciate that talk.
Of course. You're welcome, guys. Happy to help. And best of luck with this platform. I think, you guys are off to a good start. Cool.
So I do see some comments coming in, so I'm just going to display them on screen. Arnav, you can take the first one.
Yeah, so the first comment's coming from Eva JFK. As someone who wants to be a future founder, I'm curious how long it took you to ideate and put your business into action. Also, great presentation. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Eva. I think there were some folks, if you want to connect with me, I guess I don't know if I'm able to add comments, but I'm happy to kind of share my YouTube link and my LinkedIn, and folks can certainly comment. I'm not sure if I can do that, guys. Either way,
I might be able to.
okay, no worries. If not, I'll just kind of pop open. I might have something in here which just has my QR code for my LinkedIn. So I know I'm sure people might want to connect. Okay, you know what? I do have one. So I'll put it up in here for anyone who wants to connect. So great questions, guys. I think on the point around Kevin, let me know if you can again see my slide.
I think it's loading on my end. Yeah,
it's loading. Okay, cool. So let's let it load for a second. Not window. Oh, it looks like I can. Sorry, guys. I'll get to the question. Yeah, maybe this would this work? Let me know if this works for you guys. Okay, so Ava, great question. I think that's just my LinkedIn. If you guys want to connect, but I don't know if it's actually you can see it. Maybe not. Either way, don't worry, guys. Just look me up, Kaushik Ravi. You can connect if you want. So I think the question on ideate and putting business to action. Look, I think for me it took about like a year, and that's sort of coming in from similar industry, but also kind of a completely different model. There's a lot of ways to kind of do this, right, guys? If you're young, my advice might be that you guys. Oh, thanks, guys. So my advice might be that you might ideate and certain things while you're still in school or while you're still having a job, so that there's sort of the reality of life, guys, as you get older, right? Of bills and expenses and so on. So you want to really make sure that you have some minimally viable product. Again, we all want to dream big, and we want to be the next Facebook, or we want to be the next Snapchat, or we want to be the next YouTube or the next Discord or whatever. But I think we want to make sure we have minimally viable products and things that you can make revenue for. So I think the best advice I can give you is every industry is different, guys. For my industry, to build a large network obviously takes a long time, right? So I think that takes a lot of time. But for you guys, if you tackle small niches and industries, that might take you 3 to 4 months to sort of build something in reality and then sort of get it tested. So my biggest advice for anyone who's looking to build, and Ava, that's your point, sort of depends on your industry. Obviously, what we're looking to do is build the largest of something and kind of be one of one. But whatever it is you're looking to build, I would almost take it in chunks, right? In the first 1 or 2 months, I want to make sure that there's product market fit. I want to make sure that whatever product I build, at least 10 to 15, 20 people are finding value. Okay, and then there is an actual need here. Then you could spend a lot of time to make it bigger, better, etc. And I feel like oftentimes we have some views on our mind, but we don't actually go to the market and ask for feedback or sort of ideate on our product. So I really suggest for those, like Ava, to your question, if you can build something small, or even before then, talk to 10 to 15 users and say, hey, is this really a pain point? Would it make sense to build something? Because oftentimes we build something that we think that's going on, but then it's not actually reality. And the last thing is, sometimes the problems are actually ones you face, right? So just because you face something, maybe a lot of other people face it. So don't be opposed to building things in kind of smaller chunks, right, Eva? So hopefully that's helpful for you there. Yeah, we can go to the next question.
So I have a question. It's a bit of a newer comment, but it ties to this, so we can do that and we'll circle back. Yeah. I have a comment from Stephen Navarro.
Yeah.
As someone from finance and talent ecosystems, how do you evaluate different platforms? Is there a process or key signals or features you look for to make a product or business stand out?
Yeah, great comment. I guess like this sort of revolves you depending on kind of how you're looking at things. So we evaluate ecosystems or platforms, or frankly people, from a few different lenses. So for me, right, I might be an investor into something, so I might be looking at it from an investor perspective. Number 2, I might be looking at it from a partnership perspective. Hey, do they have something that I might not have? Or number 3, I might be looking to them as sort of more of something to kind of learn from, or someone who's more of sort of a competitor perhaps, or something like that, right? So I guess the first point, Stephen, is depends on what perspective you're looking at, right? So if you're looking at it from an investor perspective, for me, it's like, hey, are these, especially for smaller kind of companies, why is, first of all, is this a problem or something I care about? And number two, do I have enough views in the space to actually be an investor in the space? Number three, is this a real market need that I see, like, not that they have a small need today, but in the future becoming a big need? And then number four, is this the right team that's going to take this, product or whatever to kind of get to the next step? So that's sort of some of the key signals or features I look for is, do they have some people already sort of using it, or do we have a track record to kind of doing that, or a pathway? And then if they are using it, are they sticking around, right? It's really easy to pay the first 4 or 5 people, or 10, 15, 20 people, or pay for advertising, or do some free, launches and whatever to get people to get on the system. But are these people coming back? And kind of, if they are, what are they coming for? And is a product like evolving with the customer, right? If someone is coming in for us, right, as a freshman or sophomore on our platform, is it evolving to meet the needs of them as a sophomore, junior, senior, and then a professional, and so on, right? So that's what I look for in the investor side. Then number two, from a perspective of a partner, guys, we're looking for really, like, there's a lot of great companies out there. There's a lot of platforms out there, but is it going to be doing something that we ourselves cannot? And if so, can it help us kind of do something a lot faster? So as a partner and as a CEO, like, for me, it's a lot about managing my time. And so, like, I'm sure there's amazing platforms out there. If they're able to tell us, in a 5-second email, right, like these guys did, or other people say, hey, this is where I think this can add value to you, and thus, like, this thing makes sense, then I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And then we can kind of go into there. Again, similar signals there, right? Like the right team, the right sort of set of thing. And I think before we get into partnership with anyone, we really want to make sure they're aligned with us on our core principles, right? So I think for us, again, it was kind of another kind of a overarching answer here, Stephen, but for me, it comes back to, what is their special sauce? Are they executing it well? Is this the right team that's executing it? And then is it big enough for us to care? And sort of, is it in the right mode or right sort of area that's relevant to us? And number 6, maybe, should we partner with them, or should we just do it ourselves? Or should we just kind of buy or build, right? Because kind of the final question. So hopefully, Stephen, that answers your question there.
Yeah, so I think we have another question from InspireX. It might be a brand name, but the question is, if you could go back 10 years and tell your past self one piece of advice in terms of professional development, what would it be?
Yeah. So in today's world, guys, I think it's very changing. And InspireX, good question. Look, I personally don't think I would have done much. I think there's probably a few things I would have done differently, right? Generally, right. You kind of have to listen to yourself and your heart. I think in today's world, there's a lot of ways to credentialize yourself. Like 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe, or even before I entered the workforce, you kind of maybe had to go to a great school, right? You had to sort of go to a McKinsey, right? Or you had to kind of go to a Goldman Sachs, right? Or you had to go to a Harvard Business School or whatever. And I think it certainly helps to have all those sort of signaling things at that point. There's also a lot of ways to do it without some of those things. So if you don't have the ability to access some of these huge brands and so on, like, just invest in yourself and kind of build something on your own, right? So I think maybe that's my number one sort of advice. Number 2 would be, I think the career is a long career. I think we often get like really strung up on, oh my God, like I didn't get into the best college, or I didn't get into the best sort of, job and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's all sort of important. I do think, though, in the long run, the people who continually work hard and kind of find a way are the ones who end up becoming more successful. We've seen founders who've been successful at 21. We've seen founders who've been successful at 31. We've been seeing founders who've been successful at 41, right? So it's a lot of knowing yourself throughout your career and sort of figuring out, hey, at this point, I think these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and this is how I'm going to go do it. Maybe the third thing I'd say is, again, advice would be like, break things, like build fast and then get rid of things that aren't working fast, right? So don't get too tied to an opportunity or an idea. if sort of it's not working. There's a difference between investing a lot of time and whatever, and then there's a difference between sunk cost, right? So if you feel like, hey, I've invested 5 months, but it's still not working, maybe I'll invest another 1 year and do this. Maybe not, right? Like, why hasn't it worked the last 5 months? It's not because you haven't invested a lot of time. It's probably because, maybe there isn't a product market fit. Maybe there isn't sort of something else out there. So I guess I give you 3 pieces of advice, right? Number one is you should continually find a way to signal that you are, kind of a great sort of person to work with. And maybe the fourth one, number 2 was, it's a long career. And so don't feel like you're constantly under coming from a perspective of like, come from a perspective of abundance rather than of scarcity maybe. And then number 3 would be, like cut things short, like when things are not working. And maybe number 4 would be really add value to people and like, your brand is really you and how you treat other people and how much valuable you are. So just kind of give as much as you receive. Maybe those are the 4 pieces of advice that I give on that side. Cool. Anything else, guys?
Okay. I think we have one last question from Ninja. What do you think separates leaders who successfully integrate AI into their organizations from those who tend to struggle or fall behind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? Like we do an AI advisory for a lot of the top finance firms and private equity firms and venture firms and so on. Look, I think we're getting to a place of a little bit more sophistication with AI, where 6 months ago, I think everyone was just saying, oh, let's find a way to put AI in everything that we do. I think now is a little bit more, in my mind, the leaders that successfully do this, and we see this all the time. Number one, you have to be able to quantify the ROI of AI, right? Like where exactly, it's not just throw AI into something and like it'll fix everything, right? It's sort of like, okay, in our finance function, we can use AI to reduce on, 15 hours a week for every employee in reconciliation. Okay, we've been able to quantifiably identify what the ROI is. Number 2, diligencing like the right product for you and making sure like I said, trial runs, test runs, because there's a lot of sales pitches going on. Oh, we're the best at everything. Everybody's using fundamentally the same AI, guys. So like you're kind of using either Gemini or using Claude or using kind of GPT, right? At the end of the day, like, that's not the differentiator. The differentiator is maybe how it does what it does and how clear it is, how much it can customize to what you're doing. Because what you want to avoid as an AI leader or a leader is frankly like having to reinvest the same amount of human capital to go learn something brand new, but just kind of overcomplicate things. I think number 3 is that super, super important to make sure during the integration that like, or whatever you're doing, that like, you fundamentally like take care of customer data. You fundamentally take care of customer trust and all of that, because a lot of the firms we deal with are large financial institutions or whatever they are. And you don't want to lose trust because you botched like an AI process, right? There's that as well. So for me, the leaders that do that, number 1, are able to quantify the actual return in dollars and cents. My investment in this AI is, 10 million. And in 1 year, I can return out 20 million, like how? And then go through and actually challenge your team to do that. Number 2 is actually understand where that this AI can actually like improve, and finding sort of the best platform to do that minimizes sort of impact. Number 3 is, like I said, the last point I was thinking was, and number 3 is actually, evaluating like a few different options, and so it doesn't make sure that it's more work for your people than less work. And obviously number 4 was making sure that you protect customer data so that there's no breaches, there's no issues, because that's not, especially in the world of AI, like everything can become public very quickly. So that's my advice on leaders that separate themselves on sort of AIs and those that don't fall behind. And maybe the last one is like not embracing AI. I think that's another huge mistake, is that like, that would be my last point. Anyway, guys, that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ravi. I think you've had a huge influence on our viewers, as you can see from all the comments popping in. And I think you really managed to resonate with our young viewers as well, providing some insightful advice.
You're welcome, guys. I wish you the best of luck, and everyone on the call, right? It's a long journey, and every step of the way, like listen to yourself and have an impact on the world around you. And ultimately, right, that's what's going to matter when you're done with your career, on kind of what impact you had. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Arnav. Thanks, Kevin, for putting it together. And I'll see you all soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. There is always an opportunity to contribute to the discussions that we have at EnviroCast GEO. If you are interested in attending or even speaking at a future conference, learn more at geo.envirocast.org. We're excited to hear your insights.